Enzo Ferrari described it as the most beautiful car ever made. He was, of course, talking about the E-Type Jaguar, one of the most desirable classic cars on the planet. But few know that the very earliest cars, those survivors from the frantic launch year of 1961, have quadrupled in value in the last 5 years. The reason prices of the best 61 3.8 E-Types will soon be knocking on the door of £300,000 is obvious. This is 20th century automotive art at its finest.
Those first few cars were hand-built like prototypes, and no two are exactly the same. And Jaguar are really canny. They placed them specially with celebrities, racing drivers, and newspapers as competition prizes. The Daily Mail bought two. So every early E-Type has this magical story. This is chassis number 2, the second Roadster off the production line, and it's probably one of the most valuable of all because it was the Geneva Motor Show car of 1961, so it went to Geneva and it was Jaguar's press car. It's now owned by Jaguar and probably worth the thick end of £1 million. Absolutely irreplaceable. This is chassis number 22 and is owned by me. I bought it 10 years ago, won't tell you for how much, but it too has this magical past. It was sold to a famous Jaguar privateer racing driver on the orders of Sir William Lyons. Because back in 1961, if you wanted an E-Type, you had to have some serious pull.
At first, Jaguar planned to build just 250 E-Types. But within hours of its launch at Geneva, they were swamped with millions of pounds worth of orders and had to increase production to 1,000 cars. Starry-eyed buyers would put deposits with 10 different dealers, hoping to beat the queue. Newspaper headlines raved about the 150-mile-an-hour car that cost only £2,000, and dealers were banned from selling their demonstrators into a black market that would pay 25% over list price.
The E-Type wasn't just a pretty face, it actually drove better than a Ferrari. 50 years ago, most sports cars were as much fun as a church sermon, but this one was devastatingly fast. And the interior was glorious. The view over the long, curvy, phallic bonnet was one of the best in the world. And if you held your foot down on the tiny little accelerator pedal all the way to the floor, you wouldn't stop till you'd hit 150 miles an hour. But it was so light, so tractable, so easy to drive that even your Aunt Agatha would love it. But here's the revelation. This car is half a century old, and feel it. It's smooth riding. It doesn't clonk and bang like a donkey cart. It feels modern and together. But throw in the lovely, gruff, sweet-spinning 3.8-litre engine, the brakes that require the concentration of a murderer, and that lovely whine from the gearbox, and you've got this narcotic cocktail of ancient and modern that makes you pretend it's 1961 all over again. This is a car that absolutely is wonderful to drive, and you can use it every single day. Feel it. Beautiful.
The E-Type is beautiful because it's not the result of marketing men or committees, design committees or audience clinics. It was just expressive and, if you like, sort of a sincere design.
The 60s was an interesting time, not just in terms of fashion and people, but also in terms of cars and what remains iconic to this day. And I think the E-Type has aged almost like a Twiggy or a 60s model, in that it was beautiful then and it's still beautiful now.
The E-Type is a time machine back to the swinging 60s when the world fell in love with the very best of British culture. It was a symbol of what was a new, cool Britannia way of life. The E-Type was what the Beatles were to music and James Bond to film. It's no wonder then that people are willing to pay a high price to live the Series 1 E-Type dream, like this recent barn find.
It had been lost since 1974, considered missing. It returned to the fold, and against a catalogue estimate of £25,000 to £40,000, it sold to an enthusiastic collector from England for £88,000. And it's not over for him yet, because properly restored, that car could fetch, at auction or privately, late twos, maybe £300,000.
Visually, it was a dream. I think we were very car fixated in the 60s because we never had the variety that is today. It was kind of outstanding. You looked at it and you looked around and you see nothing like it.
When you put a car like that in a modern day London or a modern day New York, it's just astounding. You just sort of notice the beauty and the genius of the design. And you're thinking how many years ago that was created, and people are still, people are still trying to recreate that. It's pretty astonishing.
And Jaguar haven't forgotten the E-Type. This is their latest sports coupe, the F-Type, clearly a modern-day homage to the E. This 5-litre V8-powered slingshot is trying to push all the same buttons as the E-Type did back in '61, with 0 to 60 in 4 seconds and 185-mile-an-hour top shout. But it doesn't stop there, because in 2014, Jaguar resurrected their special lightweight E-Type project, building 6 new all-aluminium racing E's designed specifically for competition. Yours for a cool £1 million or $1.6 million, which makes that 1961 road-going E-Type a bit of a bargain.
So as a future-proof investment, the 1961 E-Type is platinum-plated because so few were made, so few survived, they're all hand-built, and everyone has a magical history. And here's the thing, like Warhols, like Monets, like Constables, and like the West End of London, they don't make 1961 E-Types anymore. So you better buy one now, because if you don't, you will spend the rest of your life talking about that Jag you should have bought.